Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, your one-stop platform for everything related to the micro, small and medium enterprise sector of India. Building a brand plays a key role in the success of an enterprise, for the brand is literally the identity of the company. Why is it important to have an online presence for a brand? What are the digital technology tools that are beneficial for a small enterprise? Should a micro enterprise invest in creating a social media identity? To answer these questions and more on our discussion episode today, I'm joined by an eminent panel, and our theme is Building Your Brand Online. In our Delhi studios, I'm joined by Rajiv Sodhi, Managing Director, GoDaddy India and Australia, S. Murugan Narayan-Swamy, Senior Vice President Marketing, Domino's Pizza India, and Saurabh Uboveja, Founder, CEO and Chief Brand Strategist, Brands of Desire. And from Mumbai, we're joined by Vikas Mehta, Group CMO and President, Group Marketing Services, the Low Lintus Group. Welcome on board, gentlemen. India is home to over 45 million micro, small and medium enterprises. And Rajiv, I'd like to open the discussion with you. What are the emerging trends as far as adopting an online presence is concerned? Are traditional SMEs now adopting a web presence quicker than they were ever before?
Absolutely. I think if you look at India as the land of SMBs, as you've said, right, 45 million SMBs, we clearly see more and more people coming forward. And as the internet story is unfolding in India, taking advantage of the internet to build their brand. Having said that, we've got a long way to go, right? In a land of, like you said, over 45 million SMBs, we still have just about 4 million domains and less than 1 million websites. Right, so that tells you that there's a long way to go before this becomes mainstream and SMBs start taking advantage of the internet to build their brand online. Right. Most of the times, we feel, and our experience has shown that SMBs are actually saddled with what we call as the not for me syndrome. That, hey, building a brand online is actually for big companies, it's not for small companies, and nothing could be farther from the truth, right? As this awareness is rising, we are seeing more and more companies come forward and use the internet to build their brands.
Vikas, Low Lintus deals with some of the best brands in the world. But tell us, how can a small enterprise really leverage from a digital identity? What sort of an impact can it have on the ROI of a micro enterprise?
See, in fact, versus established companies and brands, which are actually going through a learning curve to digitize their offering, when you're talking about the small and medium enterprises, a lot of them are actually very young companies. What we see is that they actually have no such baggage of unlearning available to them. So what they can do is leverage a lot of these technologies in a way that can actually start defining the best practices of tomorrow. So if you're a small, let's say a manufacturing company with a business that needs consumer-facing offerings, today your default mode of cataloging can be your website, which for an established company is the challenge is to take an existing catalog online. So starting from building your digital assets, which is almost like your permanent address online, right down to building a social media footprint and so on and so forth, a lot of the smaller enterprises can make a larger marketing impact without getting into the expensive mass media and start building the framework of a brand in a long-term basis. So if you choose to look at it from that lens, that we are the land of sort of upstarts today, the younger companies and the smaller enterprises do have that advantage over the established businesses, at least the way we see it.
Murugan, for enterprises that are in the service delivery aspect of it, how does one build a robust digital strategy? What should be the elements and how does one make it cost effective?
See, some of the rules are very common. Vikas touched upon it. It's about following your consumer. What happens, is for especially the small manufacturers and the small service companies, there is an amount of a gold mine available only through, let's say, search and Google. So it's not even about the amount of dollars you want to spend, but the learning of what is required has not been democratized yet. So it could be a small 5-store owner or a 5-hotel owner in a small town. His understanding of how much organic traffic can I get, what is the kind of target group that I should define, and what kind of words, even if I have to spend money on, let's say, search, how much I should spend. Over a period of time in the last 1.5 years, I am seeing a lot of change, probably because of more money coming in and more people in this space. There is a a gold mine available only through very basic things like organic and buying keywords and catching that guy. So many, sir, I see a lot more service operators coming into this field soon enough. Over a period of next 3-4 years, you will have a rapid, see, there's also a change in behavior. So if you look at online, buying online, even with respect to ordering food online, there is a phenomenal increase in the number of people now based on convenience, based on actually discounts that are given by people. A lot of people today are okay with not cooking at home and buying things online. This demand is actually generating a lot more people to organize themselves. So if anything, I feel this is a trend which will keep growing in the next couple of years.
And Saurabh, a lot of what Murugan was just talking about, you step in there and really help companies decide on how to build a digital strategy, and you're in touch with a lot of MSMEs across different geographies in India. But what's the one biggest common challenge that small and medium enterprises have when it comes to building a robust digital strategy, and at what stage should an enterprise start thinking about one?
Well, that's a difficult one because I can think of 3 really big challenges, and we can decide the order of priority depending on who the SMB is. Primary and foremost, I would say, is the perception that branding and marketing is expensive. Forget digital. Digital comes as choice number 2. Choice number 1 is that this is an opportunity for them to brand themselves, and it takes a while before they start believing that it can be done. Which incidentally, using digital, it becomes a little bit easier because digital is the only medium out of all the mediums available where the entry barriers are extremely low, sometimes zero, because you can have your free presence as well. The second challenge I see here is that the time commitment of entrepreneurs themselves. So when I look at SMBs, I look at them in 2 ways. 80% of the SMBs we handle are those which are traditional, old heritage businesses. Even if it's a kirana store, it's an SMB, but it could be operating for about, let's say now 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have the second generation in now, which is the biggest plus factor for all of us. The second generation is a little bit more savvier, and therefore for them to dabble with digital, set up a website or buy a domain name,
They understand it much more.
It's much faster. But whether they can give quality time to it, to manage it, is I think a bigger challenge than setting it up. Yeah. So the third challenge is overall awareness. I think there is not enough knowledge on how digital has to be used, which kind of brings us to the basic ground of what to do with your business first, and how it could benefit on a digital platform. Yeah.
But over the last 8 years of your business, have you seen that changing rapidly, or do you still find the adoption to digital very slow?
I think drastically, because the change has been more, you could say, rapid than we could expect it to be. Rather, I would say that it's gone to an extent where SMBs are actually approaching us, rather than we approaching them. And typically from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, where there is actually zero exposure to any high quality branding advice or advertising knowledge. Right. And this is where, when they reach out to us, the first thing they ask us is, how do we sell more? So it still starts with selling. And interestingly, what has happened in the last 2 years, specifically, with the, you could say, the success of e-commerce marketplaces, is that most SMBs have decided to move 3 steps ahead. So they've actually bypassed branding. They don't want to do marketing, they only want to sell online, which basically means some of them don't even have a presence online or an identity online, but they do have a presence on a Flipkart, for example. They do have a presence on Snapdeal. So where they're straight away trying to sell.
So they're just getting onto the marketplace without really creating a...
Well, that's you can say the lowest lying fruits. So everybody wants success faster. If you go the traditional branding marketing route, it can take a couple of months, maybe a few years before you get results. Yeah.
So if we talk of cost-effective web technology tools, Rajiv, what are some of those easy to operate, easy to learn web technology tools that companies can really benefit from?
See, one of the fundamental concerns of any SMB is that it's very costly and very complex to manage my online presence, and hence they stay away from it, right?
Yes.
And again, nothing could be farther away from truth, right? If you look at how do you build your presence online, it first of all starts with getting a name for yourself, a domain name for yourself, and a website, right? If you look at most of the domain names that are available in India today, they start for as little as 99 rupees a year. Now, that's not a price point which is going to break anybody's back. And in fact, like Saurabh was saying, most people delay their branding efforts, whereas, the earlier you start, the better off you are, because branding doesn't happen overnight. It takes consistent effort over a period of time to do it. And then two, if you're wanting a name today, your name is available, it's going to be very easy and very cost effective for you to take it. But if later on you were to take that name and that name's taken, then you'll start paying a lot of premium for that name. So, our advice to entrepreneurs and SMB always is that start as early with your branding efforts, because it's a journey, right? And these tools and technologies that are available, you can actually put them to work for you much faster.
Right. Vikas, for a bootstrapped micro enterprise, what are the best digital advertising solutions?
See, I think I couldn't agree more with Rajiv when he said that the journey has to start at the earliest. Because the lowest hanging fruit is, of course, use it as a medium to start driving traffic and therefore leads towards your asset. And in a lot of cases, what we've seen is that if you're a bootstrapped organization, then start with minimal spends on search in terms of lead generation. There are obviously complex tools like programmatic buying, etc., available to do that. But at a basic level, you don't need too much of expertise or capital to start with. And once you build a steady funnel of sales coming in through the channel, in a lot of cases, the advice we give to some of these smaller enterprises is that use those incremental revenues to actually fund your future marketing activities, so that in a way you're building a marketing ecosystem that is self-liquidating.
Right.
So search engine marketing is the easiest one to go. Getting a content-led website is a slightly more expensive proposition, because of course you're competing with millions of websites online, and the struggle is to sort of be discovered on that. The other bit where a lot of companies have seen success is delving on social media.
Right.
Now, while it's become very commonplace,
that's an aspect I want to keep for the other side of this break. At this point, I'm going to have to step into a quick break. So on the other side, we will talk about digital videos, vernacular content, and social media for small enterprises. Stay with us only on ET Now. Welcome back to Leaders of Tomorrow. On the show today, we are exploring how a small enterprise can successfully build its brand online. Earlier, before the break, we were talking a little bit about social media and the potential of social media for a small enterprise. Because should a small enterprise really invest in a social media identity? Because public opinion really is shaped by social media today. Or, and what's the flip side, can it damage the brand as well?
see, the question of whether companies need to be on social media is almost like asking, should people be social? And the answer is obviously yes. And I think there is no right age for an enterprise to build their social media presence. But you're absolutely right that reputations can be built and destroyed online, and we've seen enough examples of both in the recent past. So I think the moral of the story in that case, at least from our point of view, is, of course, there's no choice but to be on social media. The sooner you get onto it, and the earlier in the life cycle of the organization that you can build a social presence, the better the returns are going to be for you going forward. But the caveat is that there is no one objective with which you should enter social media, because of late what we are seeing is that it's almost like a mandatory bullet point tick box approach. That yes, I have to be on Facebook, I have to be on Twitter, I have to be on Instagram, and so on and so forth. And having built those assets, a lot of companies start asking the question, so what am I doing with them, or what role are they playing in the life of my business? So I think it's important when you're starting out to be clear, what is it that you want to achieve out of social media? So if you're a neighborhood retail store, a Kirana store, for example, what you want to achieve out of social media might be very different from if you're a manufacturer versus if you're a tech company.
Absolutely.
So I think as long as you're clear upfront what's the purpose with which you're getting onto social media, the answer is the sooner you do it, the better.
That's a good point you've made. Murugan, intelligent visual content is another tool that companies use that, the biggest brands in the world really leverage it very well. But for a small enterprise, what's the cost to benefit ratio of using visual content, videos, online marketing videos and such?
Yeah, I think Vikas touched upon content. So if you look at, the basis is, the two parts to look at it. One part is e-commerce, how much for a small time, business person, how much of business can I gain? Yeah. So if you look at conversion, the strength of your content in whichever form you want to put it has a very big bearing on what kind of conversions and actual orders that you tend to get. So over a period of time, there's so many free tools available to check, is the headline right? Is the visual cues right? Should I put a yellow color? Should I put orange color? And a guy sitting in one small town today with these free tools can actually check what will work for him from a content point of view. Right. Yes, there is a large swing to mobile and video in India, even for content. But I would still say for a small time, or a slightly smaller enterprise, even if it's a small Facebook post, one is how can I optimize that? Right. There's a second thought also to it. Today, people are using social media also to get a lot of e-commerce. In Domino's, we have quite a large chunk of our business coming through social media. So how do you use these, social media also to generate traffic and business is also growing and extremely interesting. So net point is, if they take a little bit of effort to understand this ecosystem, right, there's a hell of a killing to be made, even for a one store person sitting in a small town.
Right. Saurabh, the other emerging trend is that non-English internet is growing about 8 times faster than English internet in India. So there is, and you educate a lot of small town entrepreneurs that are region specific, that are language specific. How important is it to have a vernacular content strategy to an enterprise?
I think it depends, because almost all SMBs don't necessarily just focus on vernacular markets. And in fact, that's something which some of the largest enterprises also have not been successfully been able to do. India is the kind of market that it is. It's fairly heterogeneous. Right. An SMB typically would end up operating in one region, and they would be very comfortable in it. And for them to get into new regions and consider creating content which is specific to that region, the primary challenge for them is to try and penetrate their existing markets using tools. So I don't think as a trend, if you look at it vernacular with digital, right, maybe it's still a little bit way off. I think people are still learning how to go digital first. And visual content is one important thing. But the more important thing is behind every enterprise is an entrepreneur. And for SMBs specifically, the entrepreneur is the biggest visual content.
Biggest brand ambassador.
He's the brand ambassador. He's the face of the brand. Whether he speaks in a vernacular language or he speaks in English or he writes in Hindi, somewhere he is influencing decision makers directly, indirectly. Maybe not even by setting up a Facebook page for him, for his company, but maybe on his own page. So because he might have, let's say, 2,000 friends.
Yes, so it's always word of mouth and spreading
word of
through
mouth.
your social network,
yes,
so to speak.
and which is also how SMBs typically operate. So they used to do the word of mouth game. So social media is like, made to fit for them, provided they learn how to use it.
Yeah. So it's just taking the conversation online.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Rajiv, mobile is of course another emerging trend, and consumerism is almost driven by mobile in India today. So when it comes to small and medium enterprises, are they adopting mobile technology easily? With respect to a web presence, do you get requests to create websites that are mobile friendly?
Absolutely. In fact, today most of the demand that is coming, for establishing their web presence, being able to access it on mobile is definitely one of the top 3 features that are being asked for. We actually did a study a couple of months back with very small businesses in India, and over 90% of them actually said that having the mobile website or their website being accessible over mobile was a feature that they were looking at. right? Which is not surprising considering the mobile-first country, India is becoming. In fact, more SMBs, as they mature through their life cycle, they're also starting to complement their website with mobile apps as well. As the conversation in their business moves from discovery to, let's say, personalization or transaction, that's when an app comes in, right? And we are seeing examples of SMBs who are both building a mobile website as well as an app for greater personalization for their customers or deeper engagement with their customers.
Right. All right. So we're running out of time right now, but I'm going to ask each one of you to give that one mantra for success to a small or medium enterprise. How does an MSME really leverage digital media? A quick tip that you might like to give. Vikas, let's begin with you.
I think the biggest thing to do is stop looking at it as a channel or a medium, but actually build it into the value chain of your existing business. Because I think the biggest thing you can do if you're starting out fresh is build digital as a part of your business ecosystem. And once it's interwoven in it that integrally, chances are your return on investments are going to be significantly growing as you go along.
Murugan, your tip for digital success?
Sure. There is no traditional entry barrier. It's a very level playing field. Two things: know your consumer very well. There are many very easy and non-expensive means of reaching him and making a big business in this space.
All right, well said. Saurabh, what about you?
Yeah, I would say two things here. So one, you can't ignore it. And the second is you must start early. And don't start with just the short-term goals, which might give some immediate results. But try and brand yourself, build a strong identity. It can actually be your biggest differentiator in the times to come.
Okay, Rajiv?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think I need to stress that, you need to start as early as possible. But I would actually say be very clear about who your target audience is. You can't be everything to everyone, in today's world. So if a business clearly identifies who the target customer is and what are their needs, then they have a great chance of building a brand which is meant for that customer.
Great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thanks for joining me here today. Thank you, Vikas, for joining us from Mumbai. And hope that lesson in digital marketing was really useful to you, the MSME entrepreneur. That's all we have on this edition of Leaders of Tomorrow. If you're an MSME entrepreneur who needs advice on any aspect, feel free to reach out to us and we'll try and get experts to answer your questions. Write to us at leadersoftomorrow@timesgroup.com or reach us using social media with the hashtag LOT, or just call us on the number flashing on your screen. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.